Greetings the internet, this is Ninarch and welcome back to my tutorial series on making a Zelda-like in Construct 2. Today we're going to be doing two things. First we're going to clean up our attack animation just a little bit, add an attack animation actually, and then also speed up the sword. It's a little bit slow. So yeah, I have made some attack animations from a long time ago and they're actually pretty awful. So you can download them on my itch page. They'll be here, attack anims. There's a link in my description, and download them if you have no artistic ability, and if you do, I would encourage you to make your own. So let's get started. Double click on here, make a new folder called attack. I already made one from a other thing, but you just do it like this, and then we're going to add add an animation, and we'll call this down ATK, and click on that. We're going to import frames from files. You guys should be familiar with this already. So let's see. Here they are. Yeah, so cool. So as you can see, he does a little terrible animation, and this is for down. And so you guys are probably already familiar with this process, so I hope you can just follow along. We're going to make the rest of these in the same way that we have in the other ones, so just listen to some sweet music while I finish this.
So lucky that you came along, 'cause I've been waiting for so long. 'Cause when I lost her, I think I lost myself.
Cool. Alright, well now that these are done, let's actually make them work. Now I'm going to show you what we need to do, and then I'll show you that you can just copy and modify the animations in order for them to work. You don't have to rewrite all the code. But just so you know, this is going to be how this works. So go to our keyboard, space pressed and button A, and it's going to set attack as to true. Let's make a sub event of that by pressing S, and we're going to go to player, click our direction one, not our actual player, but the direction, and we're going to go to is within angle, and put this at 10 again, just to be safe. It literally can be 0, but I make it 10 because I feel like it. And then we want to go to 0 first. So if it's within 10 degrees of 0, it's going to be facing to the right. So we're going to add player, we're going to go to our kiln, and we're going to set animation, and then do this right attack. Make sure you have our attack, and press beginning, and that's how we want it. So you can, if you want, go copy all these from here to here, and delete this and add the action here. If you want to do that, you can. I encourage you to play around with different work styles. If you don't like doing that and you want to make sure that you get everything just right, you can just copy and paste this a bunch of times. So I'm going to continue to do it this way, and I hope you guys can figure it out.
Then you found me and I've been forced to reassess. Your laughter was the calm, I felt the storm within my chest. So when I lost her, I swore never again. Gonna treat you right each day.
Okay. So as you can see, it works. It just looks awful, but in theory you would set this up in accordance to how this animation actually works. Alright, so technically that works, so let's just move on for now. Maybe I will make some better animations later in life, but for now I'm going to leave it like this, and we're going to make an enemy real quick. Now if you go to our object types over here on the right, we're going to create a new subfolder. Let's call it enemies, and we're going to create a new object, a sprite. We'll drop it down here. I'm going to resize it to 64 by 64, I think. Is that the size we're working at? Sure. And I don't have an enemy set up, so we're just going to make one real quick. Cool, perfect enemy. He looks pretty scary, I think, so that's good for us. Now we're going to set this up so that we can add as many enemies as we want, and different kinds of enemies with different types of different amount of health and etc. So I'm actually going to make another sprite under enemies, insert a new object. make it a sprite, drop it down, resize it to 64 by 64 again, and let's make a new enemy. This time he'll be blue. He looks like this, and he's got teeth or something, and he's got weird creepy eyes. He looks like that. Cool. So how we're going to set this up is we're going to use families. Families are a really cool thing that I use a lot. They make it so you're able to affect a bunch of different types of objects all in one go. So I'll just show you how this works. If you go down to families over here under projects, we're going to add a new family, and our sprite 1 and sprite 2, we're going to rename them to enemy 1 and enemy 2 right now, but you press the little add button and it puts them in your family right here, and you're going to press OK, and we'll call this enemies. Enemies. Let's rename our red enemy to enemy 01. We can name this guy Phil. It doesn't really matter what you call them, as long as you know what you're talking about. So another thing about families is that you can set a variable that goes to all your enemies all at once without having to do it on each enemy. So I'll show you how to do that. Go click on your enemy under families, and we're going to go to family instance variables. Let's make a new one, and let's call it health. And press OK. Now you'll see that if you click on your sprites, your two enemies, they have instance variables health, and you didn't have to add them separately. And then what's cool too is we can make this guy have 3 health, make this guy have 2 health, and if we make new enemies of enemy 1, he'll have 3 health, and Phil will have 2 health, as you can see here. So let's destroy Phil and enemy 1. And let's get to attacking. So we actually want to go down to our weapon sword over here, double click on it, zoom in, and we're going to make sure that the hitbox works. So this is actually fine. If this will hit your enemy, it will work. So don't worry about this too much. It's going to happen so fast that it doesn't have to be super precise. If you have some kind of obsessive compulsive disorder, you might want to like set this using these arrows. And as you can see, this is why I'm not using them. But just make sure that it's pretty close to what the hilt of this or what the point of the sword is. And if you want to make it so that if he hits any part of the sword, make it a little easier for your players, you can move it back. It doesn't really matter. Since this doesn't have multiple frames, you don't actually have to apply to all animations, but do it anyway just to be safe. And then we're going to go to our enemy and let's edit his hitbox. Let's make it a little bit closer to who he actually is. Now, common game design ideals is to make the enemy hitboxes a little bit bigger than what they actually are and make the player hitboxes a little bit smaller just to make things a little bit easier. So you can do that. Make them however you want, really. You don't even have to do this. You can just leave it as big as you want. But I'm going to do it this way just so you guys have a little bit of understanding of how the hitboxes work. So that's cool. I think that's all we need to do on this end. So let's go into event sheet. All right, so first, real quick, I want to do this so that we kind of, now that I've introduced you to families, that we can use them to our advantage. So let's go to our objects layout, and we're going to add a new object, a sprite. Let's drop that down, and I have on my desktop my weapons, and I think weapon 0, yeah, weapon 0 is an axe. If you didn't download them and you want to make your own, go ahead and make your own. It doesn't really matter. This auto-generated a pretty good hitbox, so let's stay with that. And let's rotate it to the right and leave it at that. So now we have a sword and an axe. Now let's go back to families, and we're going to add a family, and let's add our axe and our sword to it, and we're going to rename our family to weapons, and we can do some more cool stuff with this as well. I'll go into it in the next video, but let's call this axe. And let's go to our weapons. We're going to add a family instance variable. Go to plus, and we'll call this damage. And for now, we will leave them both at at 1 damage for right now, and then we can change this in the next video. I'll show you guys how to use the axe, but I just want to set this up so that we have our family of weapons already set up. So let's create a new group, and let's call this weapons, and make a sub event, and we're going to go to weapons, under collisions, on collision with another object, click to choose our enemies, press done, and then what we want to do is we want to take our enemy and we're going to subtract from our health, and we'll change this to weapons dot damage. So this is gonna, so when we change the axe damage to maybe 2, it will take 2 damage away from our enemy. So just to show you guys what's going on, I'm going to do something real quick. You just watch, you don't have to actually do this. So I'm going to make a text box just so we can see. Let's call this enemy 1, enemy 01. Okay. Oh, sorry. Enemy, it doesn't matter. We can call it whatever we want. So I'm just going to add an action. I'm going to make our text. We're going to set our text to enemy 01 dot health, and yeah, so now you'll be able to see, when we go over to this guy, as you can see, now he has 2 health, now he has 1, and now he has 0. But we can keep doing this infinitely, and that's not what we want. So let's add a maybe we're gonna rename this to be called enemies. We don't need it to be called weapons because that's a separate thing. So now we can also add a new sub event here, not to the collision, but just in general, and go to enemy, our enemy family, compare instance variable. If our health is less than or equal to, just in case we do more damage, because say he has 3 health and we do 2 damage and then we do 2 more damage and he goes to -1, it won't be equal to 0, it'll be less than or equal to. So leave it at less than or equal to 0, go to add action, go to enemy, and go down to miscellaneous and destroy. So now, whoa, what happened? Cool. Okay, so now we go over to this guy and we do enough damage and it kills him. This one doesn't update, but he only had 2 health, so we destroyed him. Cool. So that is the basics of this in the beginning. I'm going to actually delete this text box so we don't clutter up our game thing. And yeah, so I think that's all we can go over for right now. So yeah, have a good day, guys, and please like and subscribe.